Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the RC Chat. I'm so excited to be on this evening with you to talk about something I think we all can relate to, and that is stress. And of course, tonight we want to talk about how to stop stress. And we have a few special guests with us tonight, and we're just so, again, we don't want to have to talk about stress, but stress is a part of life. It's good stress, bad stress. So we're excited that we are here tonight. So as our guests are Regina Brown and Ryan James. And we're so grateful that they could take time out of their busy schedules to be with us tonight. Thanks, ladies. I appreciate it.
Of
And
course.
I want to start this segment differently than I usually do
Okay.
because we are talking about stress. So I want everybody to just pause. Okay, it's over. So it's hard for me to pause. So I'm just trying to tell people that's another way to stress, de-stress, is to pause and take a break. And you can do that throughout the day. Nobody has to know what you're doing. So, um, that's a quickie stress relief right there. Pause, breathe, count to 10,
Mm-hmm.
and then get started again. So I'm going to let our special guests, Regina Brown and then Ryan James, introduce themselves, and then we'll get right into the questions. And remember, viewers, you can put questions in the chat, and we will do our best to answer them. So Regina and then Ryan.
Hello, my name is Regina Brown. I am a licensed clinical professional counselor in the state of Maryland. Um, I work with the Renaissance Center, have been since 2016, and I've enjoyed it, and work with other companies as well. I don't know exactly how you want me to introduce myself, but so I'll just cut that out so we can get to talking and
Yeah,
give the
that's it.
give the floor to the next guest.
All right, Ryan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan James. I'm a psych student at American University, and I'm also studying African American studies. The reason I chose psych is to further help African Americans because I feel like we don't talk about mental health or psychology enough.
Great. So we love that we have some veterans on the program, and we have some up and coming. It's the next generation, right, of
Right.
therapists and scholars. So we're so grateful that Ryan could take time out of her busy schedule of studying
Mm-hmm.
to be with us tonight. So the first question is because people wonder what is stress? How do I know I'm stressed? So let's start, Ryan. What's with a definition of stress, and then Regina, you can chime in afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the easiest ways I define stress is a reaction our body has. It's really used to protect us, and it starts really when we're early and young, and that's when it develops. And if we're often introduced to too much stress at an early age, it can lead to a lot of factors that can prevent the normal stages of development. And it can also cause people to have trouble adapting and managing stress later in life.
Great.
Okay. So, great definition. I would say stress is a natural human response that prompts us to do something, change something. Um, whatever challenges we have, whatever threats are out there that are in our lives. Um, everyone experiences, everyone gets a part of stress. Everyone is touched with stress. Is what we do um, to help ourselves release it. Is what counts. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. And I know some people may be acquainted with when we say it's responses to stress is what fight, flight. Uh, I can't fawn. What's the other one? Freeze.
Freeze. Yeah.
So different things we do, like you said, as a response to normal things or even extraordinary things that happen to us. On a some things are just daily stressors like traffic, and then some things are bigger stressors like
Mm-hmm.
the loss of a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
And with that in mind, how does stress impact us mentally and physically? We heard Ryan say a little bit about as we're younger, it can do some, make some developmental changes in us. And that's just that's a whole session by itself, the developmental stages that can be impacted by stress. But how about our mental and physical health? And Regina, and then Ryan.
Well, some of the physical signs, and I started off prior to becoming a mental health counselor, a clinical mental health counselor. I was a clinical rehab counselor. And a lot of the stress of losing employment, being injured on the job, spilled out in like high blood pressure. Um, they were sick all the time. Um, Women with their menstrual cycles, it changed. Men's libido changed. So physical spills out. It could be high blood pressure. It could be people overeating and gaining weight. These would be some of the physical signs. I think I
Mm,
would say that's what I saw a lot of.
that's good.
Anyone?
I think that, yeah, some of the physical signs that I just, as a college student, I've seen is a lot of just physical tolls on, especially on your outlook. I know people who have already started losing hair, which
Mm,
thankfully has not happened to me yet, but it does happen. You
that.
have people who are experiencing muscle pains and back pains. You have people who are working themselves so hard that they start developing heart problems. Anxiety really is the gateway to so many different issues medically that I don't think people talk about enough.
Yeah, that's true. And thinking about college students and the rest,
Mhm.
every age demographic, we have eating disorders that can develop as a result of stress, of skipping, I'm not realizing I'm skipping meals so I could study or so
Mhm.
I can get to work on time. So I skip breakfast so I won't be late. And then we never really make up for those lost meals or the lost sleep.
Mhm.
So mentally, stress is really, a challenge for us because physically we're challenged. It just spills over into mental and emotional exhaustion, which I can say that's how I feel stress impacts a lot of us physically, mentally, and emotionally. We are not ourselves. And that's what I like to say. If you're not yourself, that's the time, a sign to get checked
Mhm.
out. So if you're not yourself spiritually, mentally, physically, is something going on, that's when people should say, wait, I need to take a step back and, you know, uh, bounce some ideas off friends or go to your primary care physician and let them know you're not good. I think a lot of people forget, they can help steer you in the right direction if you're having symptoms that could be stress related. So that's good. Stress impacts all our lives. And what do you all say are some good stressors? Give us some examples of good stressors.
I'm gonna look at people, my deadlines. If I have a deadline, stress sometimes is a catalyst for me to even to get things going, to
Mhm.
get things bouncing and get it done. That could be a positive stressor. I don't know about you, but that's how it's worked for me.
Okay, having deadlines. That's good.
Hmm.
Ryan.
Some of the stressors can be our personal and interpersonal relationships and how we interact with those and conflict. Some other stressors could be, sudden events that we didn't plan for, and that can really throw people off their axis. And especially when anxiety comes in, not know how to factor all of those issues together.
Yeah, yep, and that's true. And anxiety is big because sometimes stress leads us
To
into anxiety and other uh, potential disorders, mental disorders or other physical, like Regina had mentioned. It's so many things that are related to stress. Uh, in our world, it's only April, but so much has happened already in this year alone. So we have a lot of co-occurring, not disorders, but co-occurring traumatic events happening, whether it's locally or internationally. So I'll say locally in Maryland, we recently had the Key Bridge
mm,
accident, which impacted. the global community because the workers were from other countries, and then we had the cargo ship that was headed back to their home port. So these are things that while we are in our own space, something right in our area can happen and affect the whole international climate. Not leaving other things out. We have our day to day challenges that are in the communities. So with that going on, what suggestions do you have to help manage our responses? Because this is what I've been even saying this. If it's not one thing, it's another. We
Mm-hmm.
can't catch a break. These are the things we say. So what suggestions do you have us to help? Because it's not going to stop. We're going to keep getting bombarded. But
Yeah.
so Regina and then Ryan.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I would say that we should do is be self-aware, learn how to recognize the symptoms, the signs of stress, and that is you can feel it. You can feel your body. You can feel the fatigue. You can feel it. And when you get to that level, or you feel exhausted or worn out, you need to go and get yourself checked. Another thing is exercise. I know that we say that all the time. Get out, get a breath of fresh air,
Mhm.
get away from the news. A lot of people watch the news, the internet. Move back from the internet. That helps to de-stress you.
Mhm.
One thing that you did, Lady Carla, was when you came and you said, take a breath. Do mindfulness. As soon as you said
Mhm.
pause and be quiet, I went into mindfulness and I started listening to the silencer, because my silencer is still on, and listening to the noise so that I could blank things out to de-stress. Um, and get enough sleep, get enough rest.
Mm.
I think
That's a
that's,
big one. That's a big
yeah,
one.
yeah, that's what I would say.
My answers are definitely going to be similar. Definitely get enough sleep, eat enough, eat those 3 meals a day, even if you might not want to or you're rushing, do
Mhm,
it. Build out time in your day to, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just to breathe or do something that brings you joy. That's what I
mhm,
always say. Definitely work on mindfulness, meditation, whether you're a yoga person or a sound machine person, anything to really get yourself in a nice rested state. Drink tea, try to stay away from caffeine, and really try to, again, process internally what's going on and break it down before we immediately react.
mhm,
That's great. Now, viewers, don't forget this is your opportunity to get expert advice on how to handle your stress. So put your questions in the chat, and no question, is too small. So just think whatever it is. Don't think, oh, this is not a good question. Put it in there so we can get you the relief and release you need as you handle some stressors. Now, one thing I had watched Tamron Hall last week,
oh,
and Jennifer Lewis was on there. I didn't realize she had had a traumatic fall and a 17-month recovery. So this is the actress Jennifer Lewis.
mhm,
And one of the things she said, of course, that was a major stressor, right? A accident and coming back from a health challenge that she had to overcome a lot. But what kept her going, it was that she wanted to get back to where she was so she could make people laugh,
oh,
because that is her thing, her mission. She wants to bring people joy and laughter, and she knew that in order to do that she would have to recover. She would
mhm,
have to go through the therapy, go through all of the things that it took, go through the surgeries, go through things that it would take to get back to where she could bring other people joy. So sometimes, when we're dealing with stress, and it's overwhelming, like her with the overwhelming illness and medical report, she focused on other people. What somebody is waiting for me to do another film, to make a comedy show, to be, write another book, whatever it could be. And so these are some things that can help us when we're in a stressful situation too, by focusing on the good things that can come from us being less stressed. So, nature is spring now. We can get outside. Everybody was outside yesterday, hopefully with the glasses for the eclipse. That was beautiful because that got people out and about and doing something that they didn't even have to pay for unless they wanted to travel to go see the eclipse.
Yep.
But the glasses, getting out in nature. So I would say all that. My favorite, I'm gonna give you all this and then I'll be finished with is listening to music. That's my favorite de-stressor is music. So I have a playlist for everything. I don't use the workout playlist like I should, but the other playlists are on regular rotation.
Okay.
Now, what stressors do children, youth, and young adults face? I know sometimes as adults, and then of course we have Ryan on, who's a young adult. We don't feel like they have stressors, but if you all could let us know what could be considered stressors for younger people.
I have a
I can.
caseload of quite a few. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. Well, just from what I've noted, a lot of stressors for college kids are, especially just getting onto campus, is making friends. You're in a new environment, you don't know anybody, you're going to be with a roommate that you've never met before. It's all these new relationships that you have to build, and you're kind of unsure of where to go. So, building those relationships can be really stressful, and adapting from the jump in workload, if you're going to start working, any of those relationships that you're building, there's going to be some sort of intention and work that goes into it. And we just hope it goes in well and is received well, but we never truly know. Just a lot of those connections with friends, especially in an age where social media is constantly developing. We have so many instances of cyberbullying now, even in college. And so just checking on us, checking on the youth, and especially if you have young kids, really monitor that internet activity because so much is available and you don't want them going and being exposed to what kind of stuff on the other side. So
That's good. That cyberbullying is a big
It's a big,
stressor.
yes, it is.
Hmm.
I like I said, I have a nice size caseload of young people from middle school and high school. In middle school, it's peer pressure. You always, they don't know who they want to be, who they want to associate with, how they're supposed to associate. And I always go back and look when I was a kid and remember those times, or remember that feeling, that stressful feeling of peer pressure. Um, Parents, pressure to succeed academically.
Hmm.
Um, the high schoolers, most of them are in um, um, high levels of, they're in one of those schools where academics are everything. And the parents tell them academics are everything. And so they get that pressure from school and they get it from the parents. Sometimes we have to talk to the parents, because that stress is spilled over to anxiety and depression. Um, and then there's uncertainty of the future. Um, where am I going to go to college? Am I going to do well in college? Where should I go? It's so many stressors that they have dealing with who they are, what they're going to be, how they're going to live. That's what I see.
Yeah, and it's starting younger and younger
Yeah.
because back to the parents as a stressor.
Hmm.
See, parents don't view themselves as being a stressor in a child's life, but it's the pressure you put on the child and expectations, and sometimes not being sensitive to each child is different. So we
Hmm.
might sometimes compare one sibling to another, or your cousin was a great athlete. I thought it ran in the family, and then you're not a great athlete like your cousin. So different things and pressures that beyond peer pressure, you got parent pressure. And if they're in athletics, that's a whole nother level of pressure as well to, you want all A's and for me to be the star basketball player, which is possible,
It's possible.
but it's a stressor if that's not how a child is wired. So yeah, parents, we need to, this is for us, we need to, chill out some with the pressure on our children. A
Mm-hmm.
couple of questions from the audience are about sleep patterns. We know sleep is important for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so how do we go from just falling off to sleep to having a deep sleep so that we can improve our sleep patterns? Because a lot of us can like I'll say surface sleep, but the deep sleep that helps us to heal and regenerate, our bodies is sometimes not happening.
Hmm. I'm gonna say it depends on what the the stressors are, what they're thinking before they go to bed, what they're eating before they go to bed, what exercise they had before they go to bed. If it's not something that is biological, meaning that something's wrong, um, it might be a change of habit in what you do um, during the day and the evening before you go to bed.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think you definitely have to eat those 3 meals a day, eat healthy. That really is going to contribute. And because our circadian rhythm is very complex, we have stages of when we get into those different levels of sleep, right? But if you're on your phone at least 30 minutes before bed, you're not going to get a good sleep. Put the phone away, put all the tech away, turn the lights off. Um, if you do need something to interact with before bed, try a book, something that's not tech, because that light is going to keep you up in your mind. Try to meditate or just
Mm-hmm.
practice some mindfulness, work on your breathing, because when you're in a calmer state, it's going to be easier to sleep. You're going to feel better. Definitely try to get out, get some sun. Even on those days where we might not want to, just make sure you're getting out and really try to stick to a routine. I know for me, I had a lot of trouble sleeping once I got to college, but I created a routine and I follow it very strictly, and it really helps with sleep, but also health. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, a routine, and that could be what works for you. But we know cats, eliminating caffeine earlier in the day is one, and then also, like you said, the tech, the room, turn the television off, and maybe wear a sleep mask if that's something. But and also, I've tried this was the sleep stories, or the meditative sleep story. It's like I don't even know when I fell asleep on the things, but it's that calm voice of them, whatever, to soothe you so you can go to sleep, and prayerfully stay asleep,
Yeah.
because that's another thing. I mean, I can get to sleep, I can't stay asleep, but that's another issue.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, um, Here's a comment. I work in a high school and I see a lot of stress with the teens. It's hard for them to express that, so they don't understand the assignments. Sometimes the stress shows up in their behavior. So it's different,
I have to
multiple
validate.
stressors. They don't know what's happening in the classroom, then they act out in
Mm-hmm.
the
That is true.
halls, on
That
the
is true.
buses, and in the community. So that's something people have observed, as far as children's response to stress. Any other responses you could see that could impact children? We besides grades and socializing with others.
Uh,
Mm.
definitely.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Definitely family dynamics for sure. What's going on in the home? We never know what's going on in someone else's home, so that could be a stressor. You could have that personal expectations, puberty. Our body is always going
A
through
change.
hormonal changes. Yeah, so
Mhm.
especially after that point. So, we might feel like I'm up one day, I'm down another, just trying to regulate that and be like, it's okay. Give yourself some grace, especially.
Hmm.
Don't be too
Yeah,
hard on yourself because we are our own worst critics.
that's true.
Mhm.
And even at a young age, we do that. And middle school students do not have a break from peer because of social media. But this is even adults don't
Hmm.
have a break from peer pressure and bullying because of social media. So
Yeah.
while we're in the age of social media, we're seeing the impact it's making on the culture, good and not so good, especially with the children. But this comes back to the nonstop interactions because the parents don't have any. You have to take the tablets and phones and the watches. Remember, even the video games have chats.
Hmm.
So while your child is playing a video game, they could be chatting, of course, with their friends or strangers. And bullying can take place even in what could seem like a safe environment because we're playing games,
Hmm.
but it could resort to, some negative things there. So a lot of times parents don't understand that a lot of these devices that we think aren't able to communicate with others, they can. We just don't know how to do it. That's all. The kids know how to get a message through. We just don't know how to get it through. And so it's not just taking the laptop, the tablet, or the phone. If they have an iWatch or any kind of device that
Hmm.
can connect to the internet, it can be a bullying situation. Let's see. Here's another comment. Communication is important when talking to teens. Meet them where they are. What are your thoughts about how good communication can help reduce stress? So Regina, then Ryan.
It depends on who's communicating. When you're talking about parents and
Hmm.
you're saying meet them where they're at, most parents don't think that way. Most parents are, and this is just based on the history or what I talk about with my clients. They want a parent. They are looking for the best for their child. We all know that they want the best, but most of the parents are, you do as I say, or basically you're punished. And communication isn't as easy with the child when you have someone with that stance. Like I said, um, if I feel that if they look back to when they were kids, when they were in the pressures that they had, although they're not the same pressures, um, put themselves in that shoe,
Right.
then open the communication box, it would be very helpful for that child. But it's not like that. That's not the real world. That's
That's
not what I see with these young people in middle school and high school as it relates to their interaction with their parents.
hmm
I agree. Unfortunately, I have to. I wish more parents were open to getting to have those conversations. I think sometimes I've seen with parents, they aren't open to. It's mostly do what I say, this is how it's going to go. And when you restrict that communication, I don't think we realize that we are unintentionally silencing the child as well. and we are silencing their thoughts, their emotions, their feelings, and it's going to make them more reserved or also fearful to share their thoughts and opinions later on. So we never want to strictly discourage them. Um, it's definitely a lot harder. You have social media, you have relationships, all these different things. Um, Definitely want to meet them where they are and talk with them, learn what's going on in school, be active and participate with them. But also, I do have a high school right across the corner. I do know how some of them interact. Don't let them walk all over you, though, with it, because they will.
As a parent, you can't let them walk all over you, but you can say, I am going to listen to you. Even if I
Yes.
disagree
Exactly.
with you, I'm going to listen to you. And
Yeah.
I think that is more reasonable than saying, listen to what I say. Um, High schoolers, they're coming out. They're already fearful about their future. Which way am I going to go? How am I going to make money? Should I go to college or should I start working? When they're in school and they're told this is the direction that you should go or you're going to go, and I get a lot of that, it's frustrating for them, and they do shut down because they can't share what they really want to do. Oh, but they can share it, but they're not listened to. So yeah, I agree with you. Parents have to, what is it, what's the word, I'm not going to say well, I guess it would be control, but it's the way that you control.
Right. And,
And
and it's a way to get uh the to have a healthy conversation and not feel like you're being attacked. And so
Exactly.
sometimes parents feel their children are being disrespectful, and vice versa. The children think the parents are being disrespectful, but we might have to have some guidelines. This is
Mhm.
what we do when we meet and we have difficult conversations. We have a timer. We do this. We do that, so that the child won't feel like they're being shut down.
And one more thing I would even say to that point is when we're talking to people, listen to purely listen to receive the information. Don't listen to immediately respond to what they have to say. Take in the information first, let it process, then respond. It doesn't have to be immediate, and just be respectful of everyone's boundaries. If your child in this case sets a boundary with you saying, hey, I appreciate, maybe not talking about this subject, even if you want to, just take it slow, because you're going to be better if you both respect each other's boundaries and have more effective communication.
That's good. I have some questions from the audience. Again, how does emotional intelligence reduce stress? Or does it?
I would say it does, because with emotional intelligence, aren't you looking deeper at understanding yourself and how you interact with people?
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
I would say it can. Everyone reacts to stress differently. Our bodies interpret and react to stress differently. So it really depends on the person. If they're aware of how stress affects their body, then hopefully they are able to manage it a bit better. But it really depends on how we, as people, react to stress individually.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's a good point. And also, with emotional intelligence, is the social awareness. So if you're aware, like you said, of how you interact and how that can add to your stress, or what you need to do to kind of be a better communicator or be a
Mhm.
person that is able to handle new environments. But the more you know about yourself, it's not that you're going to exclude yourself from these stressful situations, but you'll prepare for them. You'll like, okay, I need note cards, or you'll know what you need to do to reduce your stress. We have one question. Look, somebody, look, this is funny. They didn't know how to put the question in, so they texted me. So anyway, how do you handle stress of that stress of going back to work after being home
Mm.
for 4 years? Say if you retired, or maybe you were recovering from an illness and now you're back in the workforce. How do you get back? and on track with that.
You take it one day at a time.
Hmm.
There was already stressors because you weren't at work.
Right.
And of course, you have to get whatever reason, for whatever reason, now you're going back. It may be to a new job or the same job. In any event, prepare yourself. That means be aware of what you're feeling about going back to work. Be aware of what your fears about going back to work. Um, and just take it day by day. What else can
Mhm.
we do?
That's true.
Yeah. It's going to be difficult. Again, just take it day by day.
Yeah.
Uh, just really don't force anything. Don't try to do things too fast. It's a flow. You've been out of it for a while. The world has kept moving, but it's time to join in. So we
Hmm.
just gotta slowly integrate ourselves back into that
Hmm.
lifestyle. But don't rush it. Don't put too many expectations or stressors on it, because the more you stress about trying to get it right, the more you're going to stress yourself out and make it harder for you.
Yeah, and I think too, what's happening is that a lot of jobs are requiring people to return to the office.
Uh, uh,
So they haven't been in the building in 4 years. Some of our people, and some people have been. They've been working like the
mhm,
whole pandemic. But
mhm,
some people, this is the year that they have to go back in, or they have to go back in more days than they used to. And this means they have a commute. This means that, so I think some of it is because I have a lot of people talking about this. Well, I don't want to catch the subway. I don't want to park. Or just, well, how did you get to work before? That's what I'm saying to
mhm,
myself. But,
mhm.
well, I haven't had to go for 4 years. Now you want me to come in for what? So that's part of, I understand the struggle for people because that's a part of it. They haven't been there for 4 years. Some people haven't. So,
I have one that just shared with me that she's been working. And I was like, for 4 years? Really? And her issue is she hasn't had to deal with the office politics or environment.
mhm,
Everything was online. She did
right.
her work online, and now she has to go in and she has to see the same faces that she used to see 4 years ago. And it wasn't pleasant then. And I said, well, it's not going to be pleasant now. So just go in there every day
Mhm.
and do your job.
Yeah. Yep. So I think a lot of people are are very stressed out about having to return to work
She is.
in person.
Yes.
So that's a part of it. And because people are still feel fearful of their health, right?
Hmm.
And they feel like, hey, I'm at home, I can control my work environment and who comes in, who goes out, and maintain health. But um, we know that we knew this wasn't going to last. I mean, I don't know.
Hmm.
So that's how I approach some of my stressors. It's like, well, it's not going to be forever, but I have to adjust and make some steps. So Ryan, you have any tips for the people that have been away from work for 4 years and now have to go back?
Yeah, I'd say the best thing to really do is just don't push yourself too hard. There's going to be new problems, maybe the ones you left off with 4 years ago. Just don't put any expectations on it. Don't have all of these, like, negative or positive. Just kind of feel it out. Everyone's going to be anxious and nervous and maybe stressful of each other. So everyone's in the same boat. You're all just trying to figure it out together. Don't put too much stress on it. It'll work itself out.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. And then you take breaks.
Mhm.
Some people eat lunch in the car. It's nice now if this is just starting to happen where people are going back into the office. Take your breaks, go outside, do some
Hmm.
things that'll help you get through the day, and you just know that it's really not optional anymore for some companies. Some
Hmm.
people are still 100%, work from home. And then others, they have to go back in a couple days a week and some every day. So it is an adjustment. I think I'm a person, this is how I manage my stress. I try to think in advance what I could do. So if I already know they sent me a letter in January that I have to come back in April, I'm going to be preparing myself for the next 4 months. Like, okay, I'm going to have to start getting up early. So maybe I'll get up early, because I can't just run from my bedroom to the computer like I was doing for 4 years. I got to get myself together. I got to get in traffic. I have to prepare lunch. I have to have extra money for uh, car fare, gas. So maybe I'll get on a budget again, have my. So these are some things people could do to prepare. And if you have like I said, a notice of the change, then you have more time to prepare. But if it just happened, you just got the letter last week that you have to return, at the in 2 weeks, then it might, have to you might have to amp up your strategy. But preparation helps reduce stress
Mm-hmm.
when you can prepare. So some of these things you can prepare for. What about finances? That's a big stressor for people. Um, what are some tips that this is a question from the audience, from the viewers? What is a tip for financial stressors? How can people deal with those?
Um, Maybe on a budget that might release some stress. Um, get to know about your debt. Look at your debt cycles. Change it. You can change the way that you pay things. Get with your creditors or whomever and change your cycle so that you won't have to worry, won't stress so hard in getting things paid. Um, I actually got a second job to add to my finances. But otherwise, and looking at that, all I could think about was um, mindfulness,
Mhm.
taking care of your body, and de-stressing by exercise. The things that we do to de-stress, because I think we've all been there as it deals with stress from financial issues.
Mhm.
And if you don't have the funds, you don't have the funds, but there are ways that you can manage it better. Albeit a budget, I have to budget myself sometimes because I overspend. Like I said, I got a second job um, to help me with my finances. I think it's all about how you see it, and how you think about it too. On the positive, I kept, instead of thinking negatively about my finances, I looked at the positive sphere. What can I do that's going to be positive about this issue that I'm in? And that's when I went out and got a second job. I put myself on a budget. Okay, I don't need to spend that money for an extra dress. So that kind of brought it down. But also, I released it and did the best that I could. I don't know what you feel, but that's how I did it.
That's great.
Obviously, I'm not in the level of finances like you guys yet.
You're going to get there.
Yes, you are.
Cool about that. I got a little bit of time, but I did work my first few years of college.
Okay.
I wanted to support myself and do something on my own, and I think the thing that I didn't realize with that was, oh gosh, I have no time. And like, how do I actually manage this that is coming in? And I realized, okay, it's not just you get a paycheck. There's so many levels to it. Like, what is it going to go to? Expenses.
Mhm.
So taking the time out, I started as a business major, oddly enough. So we actually learned how to budget. And so breaking down each and every individual thing for the month, what it's going to be used for, how much I need for self-care or to get my hair done, all those things, and compile it and make sure that you know what you're spending. And even if you need to check that every month and adjust things, do it to what's best going to help you in your situation. I
Mhm.
would also say, definitely similar to what you said, definitely take that time, evaluate your situation. Instead of stressing about it immediately, let's think of what we can do to better the situation. Can we call our bank? Can we look at those letters that we've gotten that we haven't opened in 3 weeks? What can we do to better the situation instead of just worry, 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 stress, stress, stress? There's
Mhm.
always something we can do, even if it's minuscule. Let's try doing that first before we
Mhm.
just panic.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. And it's always things we forget we can cut back, again, take your
Mhm.
lunch, cook your dinner, whatever it is that can save you, shop with coupons,
Mhm.
go to sales, to get the most out of it. And it's what it's little things that'll add up. And also, I like what Regina said. Look at your pay cycle because you can say, ask some of your people, hey, I need to pay on the 23rd of the month and
Mhm.
not the 14th or whatever. So
Mhm.
that because you know how your payments hit your account, your money, and that'll help de-stress, but also make payment arrangements if you can't, pay all of your debts
Mhm.
the way you normally would, because some things happen, uh, you could lose a job or make less money, whatever the stressor could be that caused the financial stress.
It's true.
And eventually you'll get back on track. It just takes time, and that's what it what you have to give yourself with finances.
Mhm.
And somebody commented, proper planning and preparation prevents poor performance. But I love that, but sometimes things are out of our control.
There you go. I'll say
And
that's
even
a
with
thought,
my
but yeah,
proper planning and preparation, I can still have something
it goes away.
yep, and
Yeah,
that my performance dips. I could have been on a budget for 20 years and then something
just
out of the blue happens. I get to lose my loved one that was helping
mhm.
me uh, with my finances, or I get divorced or have a health scare. And
Mhm.
that could, put a dent in your plan.
So true.
So it's good to have your plan, but also know while you're planning, maybe have a cushion if you get to that point where you can have that emergency fund, which a lot of people are struggling these days to get to an emergency fund because they're spending all their money on their day to day.
That
So,
is true.
yep. But our question, do men and women handle stress differently?
That was a good one. So that even made me want to look up some numbers here. And of course, I went to APA and they have this study that they do every year, stress in America.
Mm-hmm.
In 2003, women reported a higher average level of stress than men. They said, what is it, 5.3 versus 4.8? Because we internalize things,
Mm-hmm.
apparently. We internalize, we hold it in, and we keep it there for a while. Whereas men, they act out. That's what it's saying, basically. They show, they external. They may grumble, they may fuss, um, or do something, but we carry stress longer than they do.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting to read. Good read.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So, anything you find in your search, Ryan?
Yeah. So one of the things I looked at actually is that there's actually a high link in stress with men, although it's not seen as much and not reported. Men actually are more likely to close up when they have an issue, especially dealing with mental health, whether it's stress, depression, anxiety, we've made it taboo almost with the gender roles for men to feel safe and comfortable to
Mhm.
talk about themselves and put themselves in a space where they are truly vulnerable. And
Mm-hmm.
so sometimes we're not really learning about these things for men and even boys until it's really taking over. With women, yeah, we are more out like outwardly showing it, but I just I like to say just check in, especially on your male friends, your male family members, especially the ones that you know who like to brush everything off, like it's fine, I got it, or oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Just make sure they're okay, because we're not all as tough as we make ourselves seem. And some days we just need a hey, how are you? Are you okay? Do you need anything?
Mm-hmm.
So just give that to men too. They need it as well.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Check in on the men because you're right. They're not going to often self-disclose that they're stressed, or they may not even, have words for it. Whereas that because they're not used to expressing themselves that way. But again, we know that stress is impacting our culture, especially African Americans, because with blood pressure, diabetes, a lot of the physical ailments, all of the muscular issues, the pains, and digestive problems, all of these can be a result of stress. We kind of keep it um, inside, and so, but it comes out. That's the thing. It's going to come out in a health issue. It's going to come out in a meltdown,
Mm-hmm.
um, at a time where you least expect it. You're going to have a meltdown, and it's because you kind of let it build and build and build, and then you get out in public, and so children aren't the only ones that have meltdowns.
It's true.
It's adults. We
Mm-hmm.
get overwhelmed by our emotions. We've stuffed them and stuffed them, and then we get one stressor too many, and then we explode. And we can't always say where that's going to happen. We love to say it's going to be at home, and nobody's home when we're at home doing it. But normally it's going to be in an inopportune place. And that's what we want you all. While it's good to know your stressors, know your triggers, the things that stress you all out, which are triggers, but also have a way to manage them in a sense of what we had said earlier: laughter, music, go outside, relax, breathe, talk to friends.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we've seen that is in with the pandemic is the isolation, the social isolation has caused another layer of stress because people now have to reintroduce themselves to people. It's like they have not. Ryan alluded to this with as young adults entering college, making
Mm-hmm.
new friends, but older adults are making new friends, and that's stressful. It's like I'm like 65. I mean, what? Why do I have to make new friends? But things happen. We relocate. Other things happen. So these are all stressors, though.
Mm-hmm. They're all stressors.
Mhm.
All stressors. Here's one question: what's a good way to handle stress when you need to be alone, but also when being alone is a stressor, which is what we just talked about?
Mm-hmm.
But I hadn't seen that, so that's a good one.
I know sometimes people like to be in the quiet. It's stressful for them to be out in a lot of activity, and so they need that quiet.
Mhm.
If that's what is being asked, I'm not sure of the question, but
Well, it's kind of like I need to be alone,
I need my
but
privacy. I
but
need.
but being alone is is also a stressor. It's like some people, remember, don't want to be by themselves, but that's what they need to be. It's like
Okay.
I need quiet time, but I also know that when I'm in quiet time, I'm longing to be around people.
I fear being
It's-
alone. Something
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's an interesting one.
Hmm. That's hard for me.
Yeah,
I've never been asked that question before.
yeah, that's something to think about because I personally like to be alone, and it's not a stressor for me.
It's not a stress
But
for me to be alone. I like my time.
I like,
Like
yeah, it's like,
my time
oh,
with people.
good. I could, I'm alone. Amen.
And if
But
I decide, but if I decide that I just don't want to be alone, then I go and I take myself out in that
right,
activity. I put myself there, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be talking to someone or interacting. I'm just out and about listening to the people, listening to the wind or the trees,
mhm,
and I'm not alone. So that's a hard one for me to answer.
I love to be alone sometimes. Sometimes I'd rather be with everybody in the world.
Yeah.
So I think with just wanting to handle that stress but be alone, just be in maybe a bit of a more open environment where you can still isolate. Maybe go to a market if you like flea markets. You can walk by, no one's
Mhm.
gonna notice you. You can do the same thing with other markets or just little shops, or even just getting a coffee or sitting in your car with some music, or maybe just a FaceTime or a call so you're not physically with someone, but you still have someone there. Um, just really also think about like maybe why we have that fear and that stress is
Mhm.
being alone is a stressor, because
Mhm.
once we kind of start to understand why these things are stressors, we can take away the impact that they have over us. So if we can kind of figure out where that comes from, that might help too.
yeah, yeah, that's great. Great answer. Yes, yes. This is more self awareness. This is more where
Mhm.
the emotional intelligence comes in because the more you know about yourself and why you do feel that way, the more you can
True.
handle it and do something about it. Where we're at the end. Can you believe it? It's
Oh,
over. Wow. This has been
okay.
exciting. Stress impacts everyone. It impacts everybody differently.
Yes, it does.
So it's good. We gave good tips and feedback from the children to the adults and to every kind of situation in between. So I'd like to thank my guest, Ryan, a budding student. She is studying psychology
Mhm.
and African American studies. So she's going to be the total package when she comes out. And then Regina and I are veterans in this. So we are glad that we had her to join us and bring that youth to the program. So we appreciate you, audience, viewers, for joining us. Remember, that we're here monthly with different topics. And if you need any help or have any concerns or want to follow up on what we discussed tonight, you can call the Renaissance Center at 410-409-0025 or go to our website, therenaissancecenter.org. So thanks for joining us this evening and have a good night's rest.
All right.
All right.
Good night.